Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me. My name is Philip MacKellar. I am a renter. I live in Oaklands with my wife and our one-year-old son. We are both working professionals with stable jobs and relatively good incomes. We met at UVic years ago, have been living in our current accommodation since 2018, but have been looking to buy in this city for many years now. We both support the Missing Middle initiative and think it would be a vast improvement over the status quo. It's become such a big issue for us trying to find a place to live that it almost entirely drowns out all other considerations we think about when we try and determine who we will vote for in future elections at this level of government and higher levels of government too. At the last meeting, a UVic student summarized this policy as good, sensible policy and warned councillors not to vote against this in the name of affordability. I would like to strongly reinforce this narrative. Families like mine are housing immobile. While our rent is easy enough to afford, we cannot safely or comfortably move into another place. This effectively means we're stuck, and it will have ripple effects, and does have ripple effects through the rest of the income spectrum. Because our relatively cheap accommodation should be going to a family with a lower income. At the last meeting, a co-op member made a similar observation about housing immobility within the co-op system. But I think this extends well beyond the co-op system, and I think that's a sign of a very unhealthy housing market. I'd also like to point out at the last meeting there was a presentation showing how many custom-built homes were going up in Fairfield. And if I remember correctly, the average price of those homes was $2.3 million. $2.3 million is what voting against the missing middle looks like. And it's for these two reasons, the high end of prices and the income mobility, that voting against missing middle in the name of affordability is a very serious mistake and is not a credible argument. The Fairfield presentation also highlighted questions over neighborhood character. If character is one part building form and one part the people who live here, then the status quo has failed on both counts. The character-rich single-family homes that used to define this city are slowly being ripped down and replaced with mansions. And this is happening without any of your input. It's happening without any of these people's input. And the question we now have to ask is, what kind of building form and neighborhood character do we want in the future? Do we want more mansions like this, or do we want missing middle? And put another way, and something that my parents talked to me about, is what is the value of my neighborhood character if my children and grandchildren cannot afford to live here? And I think that's a very serious question. I'd also like to point out that this is the right thing to do, and it is popular. It's the right thing to do because we're in a housing crisis, and because those who speak against it are generally homeowners who have been homeowners for a very long time, which means they have not felt the impacts of the housing crisis. Moreover, for a government to say what a citizen can and cannot build on their own private property is highly illiberal. It goes against many of the founding features of this country. And it speaks and really talks to government overreach and government red tape. Owners who want to build a multiplex or a townhome on their property should have the same rights as owners who want to build a single-family home. They should be on the same playing field. These facts may explain why it's popular. City surveys have said it's popular. Candidate surveys I've seen online have said it's popular. And housing, as we've seen tonight, has awoken voters who are under 30 years old. And those voters are generally considered politically disengaged. So I think that really speaks to the gravity of this policy. Finally, I'd like to mention the process. Some speakers have talked about lack of engagement opportunities, but I'd like to gently point out that this policy has been 2 years in the making. There have been multiple rounds of engagement, and it has been hotly debated by all of you here before me. To that end, I'd like to thank the city staff for the work that they've put in so far, and I'd like to thank council for the debating they have done so far. The missing middle is not a quick fix to the housing crisis, but it is a good policy. It is a step in the right direction, and rezoning is one of the most powerful tools you have at your disposal as a municipal government to address the housing crisis. The time to act is now, so please use this powerful tool, pass the missing middle, and prove you are trying to address the housing crisis. Thank you for having me, and good luck.